One day, a wise professor stood before his class holding a large, empty glass jar. Without saying a word, he picked up a collection of smooth, large pebbles and began to place them, one by one, into the jar. When the jar could hold no more, he turned to his students and asked, "Is the jar full?" "Yes," the students replied unanimously. The professor then reached under the table and pulled out a small bag of pebbles. He gently poured them into the jar. The smaller pebbles found their way into the spaces between the larger ones. He smiled and asked again, "Is the jar full now?" The class, a little hesitant, responded, "Yes, it's full." The professor nodded thoughtfully. He then grabbed a container of fine sand from behind his desk and slowly poured it into the jar. The sand sifted down, filling the tiny gaps between the pebbles. "Now, is the jar full?" he asked with a twinkle in his eye. The students were amused and answered, "Yes, now it is definitely full." But the professor wasn't done. He reached for a glass of water and carefully poured it into the jar. The water soaked into the sand, filling the remaining gaps. He set the jar down and looked at his class. "This jar," he began, "represents your life. The large pebbles are the important things, your family, health, and loved ones. They are the foundational elements of your existence, the things that, if everything else were lost and only they remained, would still make your life meaningful." He paused, letting his words sink in, and then continued. "The smaller pebbles are the other things that matter, like your job, house, and car. They are still significant but less essential than the large pebbles. The sand represents all the small stuff, the minor distractions and everyday tasks that can easily consume your time and energy. If you put the sand or small pebbles into the jar first," he demonstrated by emptying the jar and refilling it with sand, "there is no room for the larger pebbles." "And the water?" asked one curious student. The professor smiled warmly. "The water represents the unforeseen circumstances in life, unexpected moments of joy, or even challenges, that seep into our lives, whether we are prepared for them or not. They can fit anywhere, at any time, but they must not overwhelm our priorities." The class sat in reflective silence, the simple demonstration resonating deeply. The professor then asked softly, "What will you fill your jar with first?" As the students pondered, he left them with one last thought. Always remember to prioritize the big pebbles first. Focus on what truly matters, because if you take care of the essentials, the rest will always find its place. The lesson lingered in the air long after the class was dismissed, a reminder to all who heard it to fill their lives with purpose and intention, making space for the things that truly matter.